podcast about knitting and making, just simple living, just what's going on. So my name is Nadine, and I live in London, Ontario. Primarily knitting is my craft of choice, and it has been, oh goodness, over a month since I last podcasted. So, and I haven't really been that busy making, considering I'm working from home during this time, and I've had lots more. Logic says I would have had more time to make, but I've been busy working, and life is just happening. So lots of things keeping me busy. Never a dull moment. So yeah, I just wanted to drop in and give you little updates on what I've been up to. So I think in the last podcast I had just was just casting off a blanket, and it is now in daily use by my teenager. So I would love to show it to you, but she's still sleeping and under the blanket. So I will insert a picture of it on her bed. Really happy with how it turned out. If you recall, it was using the pattern called Dean's Blanket. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I did end up having to buy a couple extra balls to finish it. I'm happy with the size. She could have had it as big as I wanted to make it, so I had to, eventually I was like, I need to knit something else. So I did cast off, but yeah, it's as tall as she is, so yeah, and it took me several months. Well, maybe I guess 2 months. I'll have to look back in my Ravelry notes, but you can see the yarn I used as well as the size of needles, and any of my notes are all on Ravelry. So, let's see. So since then, I have made a pair of socks for my mom using the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern. I used, I don't have it, well, I may have a picture so I can, in progress, but I did not take a picture of them finished, my bad. I was under a bit of a time crunch. My mom is also a knitter, and for Mother's Day, I was just thinking, oh, I would dive into the stash and find a beautiful skein of sock yarn to give to her, because she has just finished, I think she's just finished her first pair of socks, and so I thought I would gift her something, a really special skein out of my stash. And by the time I went to go in and look to see what I had, I found the perfect, of course, again, I don't have it, but I can put it in my notes. It was Zen Yarn Garden, which is hand-dyed yarns that are hand-dyed not too far from London. I think they're Windsor, Sarnia, Chatham area, a little south from here, south west of London, by hand dyer. I don't know if she still is hand dyeing yarn, but she was quite popular many years ago, and I had picked up a special skein that she had hand dyed according to our local yarn shop is located just south of London in St. Thomas, and they had she had dyed some special colorways that paid tribute to some of the neat little destinations or the history of St. Thomas. And so one of them, the local yarn shop, is actually across the street from a giant stone elephant monument called what we refer to fondly as Jumbo, the elephant, who passed away along the train tracks. Of course, I don't know too much of the history, so I can also link that in here, so because I'm probably butchering it. But anyway, it was this. Oh, now that I think about it, the yarn was kind of like a purplish, deep purple black with black undertones. And my mom loves purple, and she lives in St. Thomas, and those deep, rich purples. So, so yeah, so I was just going to gift it to her and the skein, and so that she could have the pleasure of knitting it. But then it made me think, reflect a little bit more. Upon some reflection, I decided that I remembered that it had taken her months, maybe um, many, many months to knit that pair of socks that she did. And she's just, I don't think she's a slow knitter. I think she's just a busy person. And so even in retirement, she doesn't have time to knit. In fact, we catch up every week, but in her, sorry, looking at the message, in her, um, during this time, in this 10 weeks of quarantining, I don't believe she has knit a stitch. So that made me also think that maybe the gift was to actually knit the socks. And I know she'll appreciate them because she knows the time and the skill that goes into making a pair of socks. And so I was like, so by the time I had decided this, it was a week before Mother's Day. And um, I wrongly decided, figured or estimated that I could knit a pair of socks in 1 week. And I think I could if I was on holidays and I wasn't working. But even despite knitting constantly on these socks, every free minute, I did not finish. I still had the entire toe left, which wasn't too bad. So I did gift her on Mother's Day the unfinished sock, and I then took them back home. Said, "Here's what I gave you, or here's your gift, but I'm going to need it back to finish it." And she appreciated the gesture. And by the next day, I had already finished the sock, which I guess I only needed one more day, but I really did try to finish those in time. And she did appreciate them, so that was all good. Okay, so I just had to answer some emails. So I'm back. Also when people say they're back, it's not like you were waiting any longer, right? Like that's anyway. Maybe I will stop apologizing for leaving and coming back because anyway. Um, so where was I? Oh yeah, I was talking about these socks. So anyway, she loves the socks, and I'm glad I knit them. It was a good project, especially after that big giant blanket. But then I was so excited to finish that because I don't know if anyone has seen this, but I spotted on my friend's Instagram account a friend that is also a knitter, and she had made an Alone Together sweater, and I had never heard of this, and so I was like, I love the sweater. Tell me a little bit more. And it's actually just it's a trending sweater on Instagram, and it was actually born out of this lockdown. And so using what was in your stash to make this giant, almost 80s like sweater. And so yeah, and it's so you can search it on Instagram. It's called search the hashtag Alone Together sweater, and it's by I believe a Danish knitting designer, very famous knitting designer. I had not heard of her until this, so it was interesting. So now I'm following her. She's very interesting. She knits the most beautiful things. They're very like runway, but it's very 80s. So the sweater is with at least 2 to 3 strands, whatever, depending on what you have in your stash. You just gather. It doesn't matter. Like, so you have your base color, and I've chosen cream, and so similar to what she used. So using up. So what I did was I just gathered up all the remnants and any of the odd skeins of cream, white, natural colors, which I have lots of. And then, as well as that, also picking lots of just all your other remnants, things like bright colors or any colors, because some people have done it with like maybe more neutrals, but I chose all those crazy little tiny little balls that I could not part with, and you just knit them in very simply. So look at the size of these sleeves. So I mean, I really had to let go of my idea of a neat knitting project because it does get kind of messy. But you use big needles. It's knit flat, so you knit the front. It's a drop down shoulder, very 80s. It's very cropped. I don't know if you can tell, and I still have some ends to weave in, but and you can tell it's very wide. It's very 80s style. And then with those, oh, if that's, yeah, that's a good picture. You can see all the different colors I've used, pinks and blues and purples and greens, and I'm surprised I actually had all of these colors, the yellows, oranges, reds, some grays. There's some neutrals in there as well, but it's just fun. It really really challenged me to not try to um, plan it out and to let it be very organic and very random, these stripes. But I mean, I had some little rules in my head, like obviously not using the same color too closely. You can see it just looks different everywhere. Oh my goodness, I love it. Then the sleeves are knit flat as well. And then once you put the sleeves on with the front and the back, you can then go and pick up the stitches and do the collar. It's a roll. It's a roll down. It's double. It's so cute. Just a knit one, purl one rib along the sleeves and the as well as the wrists and along the edge, the bottom of the sweater. I don't know if you can see. I love that bright pink. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to knit. It was very creative, and I should also note that I think it's great for a beginner knitter, but it's actually so the pattern isn't a traditional pattern, something that you can print and download and follow along. She's actually captured her process, almost like a sweater recipe, in her Instagram stories. So actually, I should mention, I don't think I have mentioned, her name is Lerk Bagger. And I can put all the notes in there to link you to her Instagram account, and you can see in her stories there's Be Alone Together. She calls it the ATS, Alone Together sweater. All the different pieces. So you just kind of work on one piece at a time. Just kind of give into it. It looks giant as you're knitting it. It goes somewhat fast, but because it's also a bigger sweater, you have to take into account that. But everything was doubled up, so and sometimes even tripled. Like if I had a fingering weight yarn, because that was the other thing, you didn't have to worry about the weights of the yarns. You could, for the most part, I was doing kind of like a double worsted, so like two worsted strings knit together. So if I was using, if I was incorporating a very colorful fingering weight yarn, I would just double up. A great way to use your stash because nothing has to match, literally. Just kind of trying to find, like I used whites and creams in here, you never know, but I just randomly put them together. It makes for a thick sweater, definitely not for summer, but I also used, I guess that's the other thing, is I used acrylics and I used alpaca and I used cottons and wool, obviously lots of wool, but yeah, it's you just kind of have to let a lot of the rules go to the wayside, and but it was awesome because it didn't cost me anything. I mean, I didn't use any of my in my stash. If I had a sweater's worth quantity of yarn, I left that, remained that, untouched. But if you just happen to have like a lot of yarn in a tone or in a color, even two colors together that are kind of close together, you can um, use. It's kind of fun. So like, I would just really encourage you to just check out the hashtag Alone Together Sweater on Instagram and see what everyone else is making. It's kind of fun. So that was a really fun project, and it was actually also the first sweater that I had knit that I think the teenager will want more than I will. She's an art student, so I think this goes very well with that aesthetic. Some high-waisted jeans, and I think like she'd actually even tucked this sweater in. It was not something I would do. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to knit. It was lots of fun to see it come together. Even the seaming, which I don't love seaming all the time, was fairly easy. And she, Lerk, gives lots of little tips along the way. I love also, if you can, I don't know if you can tell, but we actually do a lot of the seaming with a crochet needle. And so, yeah, that's showing up a little bit better there. It's actually you just chain it together. So it's visible seaming, which is actually kind of just gives it a little bit more of a cool factor. So yeah, so that was done. I would say it took me about a month to do. Lots of fun. I would totally knit that again, maybe in different colors. And then after that, I just wanted something quick and easy. So I cast on a shawl using, I had found in searching for all of these yarns, I kind of got to know my stash a little bit again, and found this Briggs & Little yarn, a fingering weight. It was a natural color, and I had dyed it with Kool-Aid with purple. I had, like years and years ago, one of my friends got a bunch of us knitters together, and we dyed yarn in her meadow, which was the loveliest thing ever. But I'd forgotten that I had dyed this. Purple is not a color, I think I've said this before, that I generally use and knit with. But at the time, my daughter had just applied to Western and got accepted, and we were collecting a lot of ink, gifting her lots of purple things. So this is just a very basic shawl shape. I don't know if you can, yep. It's just very long, more like a scarf. I also haven't done in the ends either, but it's kind of a neat shawl. I've knit this in lots of colors before. If you've ever knit with Briggs & Little, you'll also know it's very rustic wool, some might say scratchy. So I don't mind that. I love that feature, but people that don't like wool or have an affliction to wool would not like this, but I think it will soften up with lots of washes and wears, and it's all garter, which I love to do. It's just a simple, it's a drops pattern that I can also link in the notes, but you just cast on, I believe, yeah, cast on this little bit in the center here, a little bit, and then you're just constantly adding 4 stitches, casting on 4 stitches on each end. So, and then every other row, you're also increasing along the center, along the spine. So in two rows, every 2 rows you are increasing by 10, which makes it this very long triangle. But it's all garter stitch. I can do this in my sleep, and I think it's an easy one to wear as well. So I think I'll be gifting this. I do not need another shawl, but yeah, we'll see. I'll put it in the pile of knits to give away. And then after that, I knit another. I found, again in my searching yarn, I found a beautiful skein of a blue, kind of a denim-y colorway. It's called, oh my goodness, my friend Debbie from the Loving Path. Oh, this is backwards. It's her Soul Sock base, which is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon, and it's called Welcome to the Rock. And it's this beautiful denim-y, washed denim color that I love. And I just used, again, Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern, which is just strategically placed little purl stitches on a gently, on a otherwise quite plain sock, really. But I just love this color. Again, so I've knit one sock and I've started the second sock. It's going much slower than the first sock, as second socks generally do. But like, yeah, I love it. She's a whiz at hand dyeing, but she's also here in London, Ontario, and you should check out her Etsy shop. Again, that's the Loving Path. So let's see. I think that's basically all I have for knitting. I'm trying to think of what my plans in terms of future knitting. I have some really nice taupe yarn that I've got a sweater's worth of it and of DK, and I'm just still trying to find out what exactly pattern to use. So I had bought it for a pattern in Emily Foden's book, Knits About Winter, but I'm not quite sure. I'm cooling off on that idea and looking for other ideas. So in the meantime, I also, in my stash dive, found a lot of, I don't even know where I picked this up, but Rowan 4-ply soft. So again, it's not really showing up. It's a fingering weight. I've got 9 balls, which would make a fairly, maybe like a 3/4 length sleeve little top, maybe a basic kind of like, or like what I could do is use it because it's so such a plain color. I could do a yoke sweater. I could do something fancy along the yoke and stretch that yarn a little bit more, because I feel like even if I just had one more ball, it would be enough for a nice large sweater. But yeah, so I could maybe stretch it a little bit by adding some color work along the yoke. So just if you have any suggestions for fingering weight yarn in a nice basic sweater, send them my way. So that is in my future dream knits, I guess. I don't know. In terms of what's next, I don't know. I had some time to finish this sock, but it won't take me long. Let's see. I've also I haven't really been doing a lot of sewing, but I have done some little bits and I've gotten it out. I've made a little bag and a little scrunchie for my cousin's daughter turned 9, so it's a chance to get it out and remember why I don't love it all the time. But just doing some really simple, I did a really bright pink for her, but just a nice little scrunchie. This is a little silk blouse. Well, it wasn't a little, it was a big silk blouse that I had. And it started fraying. It was very weak. It's very light. And so the seams weren't so strong. And so instead of mending it, I've been cutting it up and making these beautiful little scrunchies. So, and they don't take a long time, but yeah. So just, we all have long hair, so those things, you can kind of tell a little bit better in this one. I did a red. It's, yeah, it's a nice little, I love it. Again, doesn't take too long, very easy to do. So I did that, but I also, Layer Coat Bagger actually knits scrunchies, and so I think I may try that. I feel like it would be really big, but I guess if I use like a fingering weight, I think that would look kind of cool. So that's on my things to do. And also, I also, when I watch a lot of podcasters, I notice that they all have really pretty sewing or knitting project bags. And while I have never bought one, I have had the envy. And so trying to stick to my budget and not buy anything, I also have been using my sewing machine to just to make some project bags. And so this one I always use for my socks, just using some scrap fabric. There's, gotta cut that off, but it's just a square bottomed draw bag, so you can, and it's really neat. It's kind of reversible, so I could use it both ways. It's a really easy pattern. Just kind of using the calculations. I'd have to find, if I can find the pattern I used, I will, I'll include it. But yeah, it's just a little pouch. So I can carry that around. I'm just using what I had around the house to make that. So that really didn't take that long, and it's not as solid or structured as, but I'm not going out to knit in these times of quarantine, so it just needs to be able to move my knitting from one place to the next in my house. I have also made a zippered pouch as well, and this would also fit. I just used a white, kind of like twill, white canvas, and a nice bright fuchsia. Again, just using the stuff I had around the house. I had bought a bunch of zippers at one time, thinking I would make a lot of pencil cases for the girls. They really only need one pencil case. That's a fact. But yeah, it's all lined with this pretty little flower fabric, and I'd made one for my mom as well for her sock knitting as well. Yeah, and I used, this was a free pattern also online. I think it was through Paper Theory, but I'll have to, I'll put it in my show notes. I've got a lot of work to do on these show notes. But anyway, this again was really easy. It's just basically a square with some squared bottom, so it'll sit up nice. And you could put in some fusible interfacing to make it a little thicker. Again, I didn't have any, or didn't want to waste it on that, so yeah, that's, and I also made my little notions pouch. This I made, oh my goodness, I'd say like 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm still using it. So they're little wood cuts. Again, just dipping into my stash. It's also just lined in just a brown cotton plain solid. It's not faced or anything, but yeah, it holds my seaming needles, my stitch markers, my measuring tape, scissors, crochet hooks for the slipped stitches. But yeah, again, just using what I have around the house. So while I do have severe envy of everyone else's beautifully made pouches and bags, I've treated myself. And again, they didn't take long, and they're very sturdy. So I think that's it. Oh, I've also made Chris Wood Sews envelope dress. I used just kind of, I don't know if everyone has seen this, but you can, um, I will also, I don't have a picture of me wearing it. It's quite bright. I used just some old fabric that I didn't care about, and so I will wear this dress around the house. It's very for summer days when it's really hot, but I will not be wearing it outside the house, nor will I be showing anyone except for my close family members. But when I do make another one, and I'm sure I will, it's again, it's a free, not a pattern per se, but it gives you the measurements, and it's just basically 3 rectangles, 2 rectangles for the front and a rectangle for the back, and kind of like a caftan. It's you can make it as short as long as you want. You can make it into a shirt or a maxi dress. I think it took me 2 hours tops to make. So yeah, if you're looking for a very very easy sew for a beginner, at least for like someone like myself, it was a great way to make a full dress. And so I'll be making that again now that I know how it fits, and I can make some modifications, maybe make it a little bit longer, maybe make some slits on the side for the from the knee down, so I can walk in it. And yeah, once I do that, I'll share that. But it's a really cool thing. I think I've shared in my other podcasts, it may have been in the last one. I've been sewing these, the LB pullover, which is a very boxy top and has a bit of a bit of a stand-up collar. It's a very basic drop shoulder top, and I decided to see what and this is a modification of, not a modification, but part of, I've always made the top with the sleeves, but there is the other option to skip the sleeves and just hem the sleeves as a short sleeve top. And I also took off the collar, which is also another option, and the collar's optional, and to make a bit of it just a cotton t-shirt, and I love it. And again, it's down in the laundry room, but if I have a picture of that, I'll slide it in here, but if not, I'll also put it in the show notes. I just used, again, just a dark plaid, which is not something I would have chosen for a t-shirt, but I just wanted to see what it would look like before I cut into my good fabric, and so really happy with it. And I thought it would be so much easier because you have less pieces, but I used binding around underneath the sleeve to make a clean hem, as well as around the collar, and binding, like pinning it and ironing it and pinning it and sewing it takes a long time. So it just takes a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh, it's just 2 pieces, the front and the back. I sew it together, t-shirt done. But it does take a little bit longer, and so it's probably held me back from making another one, but I will be making more. So that is an amazing pattern, the LB pullover. I love it. I have made it several times, lots of times. And I like that style. It's very loose and very comfortable. So yeah, so that is sewing. And I don't have any pictures. I'm so sorry I didn't bring it. Like it's been on my list of things to share. So let's see. Talked about the sweater, socks. I have had one sad thing since I podcasted. I have been brewing my own kombucha for over a year, maybe about a year and a half. It's almost been. almost got to 2 years. I swore up and down. I think the more I talked about it, how it was almost unkillable and how good I was at it, eventually made it die. So my mother's SCOBY got some mold in it. I don't know how. Sadness, because I was just starting to kind of bring it back to life after it sleeping under in the back of the cupboard, which it's fine doing. You don't have to tend to a SCOBY that much. Um, I pulled it out after a long winter of neglecting it, and it seemed fine. It had grown lots of babies, and I divided all of my babies. I gave them all away. So my SCOBY hotel was emptied, and I just really focused on the mother, and then I killed it. I don't know why and how it got the mold, but I didn't change anything, which was really surprising. So now I'm just looking for a new SCOBY. So if you are local in London, Ontario, and you just happen to have a little baby SCOBY for me, I will take it. And I will give it a new home. So that was a little sad, but in terms of everything, that is not the worst thing that could have happened to us. So that was a little bit sadness, but yeah. We've been working a lot in our backyard, cleaning it up and picking the rhubarb that is growing, and making stews, rhubarb stew and rhubarb spreads and rhubarb syrup and rhubarb muffins. So that has been a lot of fun. Been doing yoga every week. We kind of slowed down on our 30-day yoga challenge that myself and the teenager were doing. We kind of let it go. But I've been doing a weekly yoga practice online, so that has been nice. So I would do that every Thursday morning, and every Friday morning I wake up and remember my body is just a little bit sore. But that feels good. It's a good sore. And I've also recently, in the last 3 weeks, started walking 5K every morning with a neighbor. The two of us have had previously, up into the quarantine, have been walking every single day to work, and so, which is a 5K. And so I was really missing that, and I've been doing a lot of that quarantine baking, so was really in need of walking a lot of that extra stuff off. Plus, just I have a desk job, so I sit at a desk all day, and I was just feeling it. So the nice part about us doing a walk is we live along the river on the Thames, and so there's lots of pathways now. With the quarantine, those pathways have gotten lots busier, which is great to see so many people in our community out and using them and active and spending time outdoors. I don't think they've ever been used this much, which is amazing. But it also makes me a little anxious, and so we've been trying to find spots in our neighborhood, wild and green spaces in our neighborhood, which is not that hard. So we also have a special spot called the Coves, and so we've been going along there, but recently found a whole trail, like a chain of trails just beyond that, and so cool to go into there and see all the wildlife, and just it's amazing to me that there are this amazing forested area and waterways that I didn't even know existed, that are literally within a half an hour walk from my house. So that has been a lot of fun, that it's in the center of the city. A lot of people don't even know about it, and it's giant, it's extensive. There's at least a 3-kilometer loop that I didn't even know existed. So it has been amazing to see all the wildlife. So This morning I saw a possum carrying a baby. One morning I saw four great blue herons. Like generally you may see one and it's a special moment, but to see four in this like within minutes of each other, so um, that was beautiful. This morning we ran into almost along the need to really pay attention. Giant snapping turtle on the side of the path, and I have seen one lunge before, so I was like, it's time to reverse. And so we kind of reversed a little bit and went on a different trail around it, so we wouldn't disturb it. And we see lots of deer. Also this week we saw a baby snake slither its way across our path, and lots of bunnies, and um, yeah, and yeah, it was just and we see the fish in the water. We can hear the toads and the frogs talking. So yeah, it's been seeing some dragonflies out there. We even saw an indigo bunting, lots of finches. Um, yeah, so that's been kind of a special fun thing that has happened since. Um, so staying active, trying to be creative, and let's see. I think that's basically it. And then so I do know that some of you may be interested in a little bit more about how I knit to use up my stash, and so patterns that are really good for it and projects. So I will try to dig up some more, but definitely I would highly recommend the Alone Together sweater because it used up a lot, and it was a lot of fun. But like it even got to me thinking, like, you could do a giant big blanket just using that. Like, you can still see all the knots and stuff, but it's such a cool effect. Like, I think that would look really sharp. So just casting on a lot of stitches and doing, maybe doing a garter stitch edge, and then just doing knit one side, purl the other, and then stick in all of, oh my god, maybe this is the next project. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I think the back is nicer. I don't know. So much fun. So yeah, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else. But I hope everyone is hanging in there. I know that our government is in their phase 2 back to work plans. So we're seeing parks open. Um, I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to go out into the world right now, but I will use my maintain my 6 feet from others that are not in my household, and wash my hands frequently. I have some nice masks that I will use when I can't keep those distances. Trying to still avoid doing anything I don't need to do. So yeah, I'm still ordering my groceries online and picking them up, which takes, exposes me for, a fraction of what it would be to go into the stores and do all the shopping. So I just hope everyone is taking care, staying safe the best they can, especially as we go into this next phase of returning to a new normal, but going back to some of those activities, like going to work, going into the office, and yeah, and those activities we were doing before, but maybe a little bit more, using a little bit more consideration. So yeah, I'll try not to make the next podcast, my break between podcasts, too long. This was nice to get back into this. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And yeah, until next time. Bye.